All right. Good evening, everyone. 9:24 p.m. on Thursday, October 5th, 2017, New York time, of course, where everybody's doing well. And just making a video here regarding probably the couple of the biggest highlights for the week coming up tomorrow during the early New York session. That would be at 8:30 a.m. New York time is the Canadian employment numbers and the U.S. dollar employment numbers, the official non-farm payroll, average hourly earnings, and the unemployment rate. And for the U.S. dollar, the average hourly earnings is really the main one they look at. And as I made my video last night, you'll notice this expected job increase is very small, 82,000 versus 156 the prior month. The main reason that they're expecting that is due to the fact that the hurricanes in Florida and Texas may have had a negative impact on jobs. So we'll see. And last month there was a miss, 156,000 versus 180, and the average hourly earnings last month was also a miss. So, obviously employment numbers and average hourly earnings are huge indicators for the strength of the economy. Our company's hiring. Wage pressures also, tend to be inflationary. So, obviously, again, next to interest rates and inflation data, employment numbers are really critical. So, it's going to be really interesting to see how these come out with this job number being what it is. So, I would do a little bit of research on this. Forex Factory is a good place. You just click the folder here, and these look like a couple of good ones, and I'll be reading these. Plus, going to forexlive.com. It's another good place. So, for the Canadian dollar, they're expecting for jobs actually a little bit worse than last month, 13.9 thousand jobs created versus 22.2 last time. They expected their unemployment rate to tick up slightly. And so, again, remember the Canadian dollar has been very strong lately. This morning we did have Canadian trade balance come out quite a bit worse than expected. And as I mentioned last night, if there was a big deviation on this, that would be impactful. And indeed, the Canadian dollar did sell off quite a bit. Because, again, remember that the Canadian's been bid up a lot lately. The Bank of Canada, Governor Pallaz, also has kind of warned the market that, even though they've raised rates a couple of times, that, it'll be data dependent on whether the Australian dollar, whether the Bank of Canada continues to raise rates going forward. So this did not help the cause for the bulls, having this negative trade balance number this morning. So where is this going to come out tomorrow? This is going to be a huge thing. If this ends up being come out above expectations, higher job numbers, the interest rate falls or at least stays the same, then that's going to renew the bulls, I think. But if we get more red numbers in here, I think we're going to see a significant sell-off in the Canadian dollar. And we'll look at the charts in a second, see where they're leaning. We're still 11 hours away, so I don't put a lot of stock in what the charts say right now because we're just too far out. But I'll show you at least the early view, although I certainly reserve the right to completely change that view as I look at the charts tomorrow morning. But that's the things to look for. And again, with the U.S. dollar, it's really going to depend where these numbers come in. If average hourly earnings, they're expecting a pretty big increase here, 0.1 to 0.3. These are still very small, pathetic numbers, but as a percentage standpoint, this is a big increase. So if this number disappoints and this number comes in really low, then expect the U.S. dollar to sell off. So, boy, I tell you, 82,000. In my mind, I have a hard time thinking that the hurricanes have this much an effect on jobs. Yes, Florida and Texas are two of the largest states in the country, but Texas, it was mostly the Houston area and along the coast. In Florida, did have quite a bit of damage, but again, they're only. It's not like it was all of Texas and the entire state of Florida. So So I'm just amazed that this would have that much of a negative effect. But we'll see. We'll see. Those are two very big economies in the country, prosperous, growing economies in those two states. So very well could be. So we'll see how it shakes out. So let's go to the charts for a minute and look at these. So just going to look at a couple. I'm not going to look at every Canadian pair, but so here's the Canadian yen. This is the daily chart. We've been going down here. You can see the Canadian, of course, has been off this pair, has been rallying since the springtime. I'm just going to put a line chart on this for a minute. So, basically, I'm looking at this last move down as a correction. I was trying to see if on the line chart it would be a little more clear, but it's not. So we'll go back to candles. So, but I'm still thinking that this could be corrective. That this is an ABC right here. An ABC. I measured it out before. They're about the same length right now. So I'll be curious to see where this is tomorrow morning. So that's the daily chart. If we're anywhere down tomorrow morning, anywhere from about this arrow or above, but heading down, then I'd certainly look for this to be the end of a correction and indeed have this go up. If we're kind of moving up sideways, if we're doing something like like this, where it's kind of like going like this, and it goes up like this, we're doing something like this tomorrow morning, then I'd expect that we're going to have a significant sell-off. But if on the other hand, like I said, it's trending down at the time the news comes out, I would expect it would end the correction. So right now this is what I'm leaning on, but this is what I mean about having to wait till tomorrow. But of course, this is a 6-hour chart I'm looking at, so I just don't think it's going to have enough time to do all that. Again, from a measurement standpoint, from a correction, we're looking at, if this is the A, it's about 170 pips, and then if this is the B off this high right here down to here, it's about 175 now. So we'll see. It could go down a little bit more. Just kind of move sideways, but we'll see what it looks like. So, but so that would suggest positive numbers for the Canadian dollar. Canadian Swiss looks actually very similar to the Canadian yen, but this is an ABC potentially. And again, it'll kind of depend where this is at tomorrow. This is a little bit of a concern for me here because we had this move up, and then the trade balance news came out this morning, and of course it went down. So this still looks corrective, and so it concerns me a little bit that if this is kind of trending up towards this arrow tomorrow morning, then this is going to sell off more. But we'll have to see again. But it's very much like the Canadian yen in terms of the fact that this could just be an ABC correction. As you can tell, again, we've been trending upwards in this pair since May. We've been moving up. So, and from a standpoint of a big corrective move, so this last one right here was 260 pips, took 13 candles. This one here, 240 pips, 13 candles. So, if you want to get an idea how long these big corrections go on, this is about it. So it's something else to look at. So again, early look there, yeah, maybe positive for the Canadian. Euro Canadian has been going up. Of course, it was rallied today on the trade balance news. This 12-hour chart. Here's your daily chart. Down a little bit here. We've kind of been trending down here. Is this an ABC? Again, we'll see where the news is at. If we're trending to the upside tomorrow morning, I have this arrow way up here. That's because I drew it on this chart. If the news is trending, if the pricing is trending up tomorrow before the news comes out, it's not going to get all the way to this arrow. This is a daily chart. It's obviously not going to get this far, but unless we get a spike and then it goes down. But we'll see. But this is potentially an ABC, and then we'll move down. So that would hold up the other theory about the Canadian being positive. Aussie Canadian, Same thing. This looks like a correction. So it's just going to keep walking up this trend line. Then when the news comes out, we break through and down. Again, that would hold to the positive news for the Canadian. Kiwi Canadian, this is the weekly chart. And again, this is a weekly chart, a very, very long time frame, but there does appear to be a pretty classic, obvious trend on the weekly that's probably entering a wave 5 and is heading down, which again would support the theory of the news being positive for the Canadian. So there's your Canadian, Kiwi Canadian, US Canadian. Same thing. Been trading down here. This is the weekly. If we go down a little bit here, this whole thing, although this looks pretty impulsive to the upside, a lot of these waves are all overlapping, which is usually a sign of a correction. You don't have a nice steady move up. You've got, down, this one goes up, overlaps here, this one goes up, overlaps here, this one goes up, overlaps here, this one goes up, overlaps here. So we'll see. Again, I have this arrow drawn here. If we're moving up tomorrow into the news and seeing this, maybe draw out a spike, then I would expect this would continue down. And of course, this is the US Canadian, so this combines both of the pairs that are trading tomorrow. So if we get positive Canadian news and negative dollar news, this is probably the best pair to take, because the combination of a bad dollar news and good Canadian news would push this thing down very rapidly. And even if we only go back to the beginning of this move, I mean, that's 500 pips. So this is really the one to watch. Depending how that news comes out, I think the U.S. Canadian is the key here. Depending now, if we get a mixed bag, or if they both come out positive or they both come out negative. Really, if they both come out negative, this probably isn't going to do much. If they both come out positive, it's not going to do much. Of course, you need divergence in the two things. But if we do get that, then expect a significant move in this pair. So, and it's really one of the only times I trade U.S. Canadian, to be honest with you. So, and the last one is pound Canadian, and again, if the Canadian news is positive, then you expect this to be moving down. So this is the 2-hour chart. We go out to the daily. It looks like we did end a trend right here, so this could continue down. But this is one that throws a little bit of a monkey wrench into things, because if we go into the news with this heading down like this, we're making a new low. This is the 4-hour chart. And we're making a new low, and we get anywhere around this arrow, I expect it to turn up, and of course that blows up the whole theory. So that's what I mean, guys. You just got to wait. It's just too early, being 11 hours till the news, to see where these patterns are. But if I was making a bet right now, I'd say the news is going to be positive for the Canadian dollar, and I didn't really look at any U.S. dollar pairs besides the U.S. Canadian. Here's the U.S. Swiss. This looks pretty. I'm just looking at this now as I'm talking to you guys, so this looks pretty corrective. So again, this would bear out to be negative for the US dollar. So again, if it's positive for the Canadian, then the US Canadian will be a great trade to go short. US Swiss looks like, definitely could be a short. And let me just look at US yen a little bit. I don't want to beat this dead horse because I haven't really looked at these pairs. Yeah, I mean, this could definitely go down. US yen's kind of moving sideways, kind of ended a trend. Bad news would just send this straight down, but that's not quite as good. Let me just look at the euro dollar, and then we're done. Euro dollar, again, maybe bottoming out here. Let's go to a higher time frame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe that's the end of the trend. Again, if we're heading down, it looks like this probably will go down again. Heading into the news, if we kind of correct and we're moving downwards before the news comes out, then I expect that this would rally off bad US dollar news. So again, right now, my guess would be negative for the dollar and likely positive for the Canadian. So, pairs like the US Swiss short, Euro dollar long, US Canadian short, and then maybe these like the Kiwi Canadian, Aussie Canadian short, Euro Canadian short. Those are probably the ones I'd look at. So that's it, guys. If I have time, I'll maybe make a quick video in the morning before the news comes out, but I'm not sure if I will. If not, then maybe I'll make a follow-up after, and we'll see where everything shook out, and and see how we do. All right, so be careful. These obviously are, those of you that are experienced traders, these can be very volatile events. Don't put too much risk out there, but I'm sure we're going to get some good moves on both of these currencies. So it's just a matter of how the patterns look, and that's what I'll be looking at heading into the news. Around half hour to an hour before the news comes out, I'll kind of make my decision at that point. So anyways, guys, appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Any questions, leave a comment, like the video, share it, etc. And like I said, happy pip hunting. And make your own decisions. Don't take anything that I'm saying as a trading recommendation. Use your own judgment and make a good decision. So, but hope it works out, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.